Welcome to the Film Student Study Guide, episode 14. This one is over Beavis and Butthead Do America, Office Space, and what was the other one? Oh, Idiocracy. Yeah, that one. Mike
Sounds
Judge
like you didn't
feature.
like one of these.
What?
Sounds like you didn't like one of these films.
No, I like them all, just like at varying levels of like.
Just the way you said Idiocracy.
I like Idiocracy.
All right. You didn't introduce yourself.
Oh,
but we can move on.
I'm Roberto and Truman. This is my co-host Truman Matheny.
That's correct. I had an idea of how to open this discussion.
Okay.
Kind of the way I watched these three films.
Ooh, what was the order?
The order I watched them?
Yeah.
The order I first watched them?
No,
order
for this.
So the order that I rewatched them in was I started with Idiocracy, then I went to Office Space, then I finished it all off with Beavis and Butthead.
Okay. Because I did Idiocracy, Beavis and Butthead, and then Office Space.
And was this your first time watching any of them?
I've seen Idiocracy before.
Okay. I think this was my third time watching Idiocracy, my third time watching Beavis and Butthead, and probably more like my fourth or fifth time watching Office Space.
So you've seen these movies a lot.
Well, I love Mike Judge. I love him a lot.
Mike Judge is a very Truman director.
Yeah, he very much is. However, I will say he directed another movie, and I'm also not a big fan of King of the Hill, but I know that in some ways I'm in the wrong for that. Because it's good, it just, I feel like, ends up going too much into the whole, like, traditional plotline structure of a, cartoon show. Where it becomes almost melodramatic or something like that, and it's kind of annoying that way. Whereas Beavis and Butthead, which I assume you haven't watched any of the show, right?
No.
Well, the show Beavis and Butthead, really, any episode could be almost anything. A lot of the episodes are just one day in class. One class period of them doing something. Some of the episodes are just one shift of them working at Burger World, which is where they, work most of the time. And all kinds of other things. And they're very, very focused, on one thing. And it's just, there is a plot, but at the same time, there's one of the ones I like to reference a lot, which is the first one I ever watched, and I did not get it at all, there's one called Choke, where Beavis starts choking on a nacho, and so the whole episode, Butthead just doesn't do anything about it, and Beavis is choking on a nacho, and they keep, just giving you enough of oh, we should probably go and talk to someone about this, dude. You're not talking, or something like that, right? And they just keep getting closer and closer, but every time it's oh, hey, that's Stuart. Let's go beat him up or something like that, And it's, the whole time Beavis is going from, his normal flesh color to blue to purple to, black by the end of it or something like that. But yeah, so that just to give an example of why I love Beavis and Butthead so much is because it's so focused on what it's trying to do. And it really doesn't lose focus.
Yeah, and they're all very short episodes too, right?
Yeah, I think it might have been 15 minutes an episode, which really turns out to be, more like 9 minutes based on commercials.
Oh, wow. But that's perfect.
Yeah, but it's also possible that these are each 4 or 5 minute segments that are all compiled together into one 30-minute showing. I have all the Beavis and Butthead on
you brought
DVD.
them to Chaos. I remember.
Yeah, which was so great, and Ben didn't like it, which is
Ben
what was
loved
so
it.
funny.
And then there was a very fast and hard turning point, and where he went from "I love this" to "I hate this" and "I despise this" with every fiber of my being.
Well, and that's just how it goes. Because as much as I love Beavis and Butthead, there does get to be a point where you've watched too much Beavis and Butthead in one sitting.
Yes.
And it happens more in the show than in the movie,
yes.
You know, because the movie has that huge plot.
Yeah,
and it
also
characters.
has other characters that aren't Beavis and Butthead. Like, the scenes without them are like a relief from them.
Yeah. It just gives you a little bit of a break from...
It's constant. I did not realize how much of a constant noise and just like a drone there was. Like, it's like like whenever people are like going to sleep and they put on like white noise machines, like it's a white noise machine of that. Like, that's how the entirety of that movie is.
Yeah, it's I love it. It's pretty funny. But yeah, it's even worse on the the DVD box set. Yeah. Anyway, so the way I was thinking about these movies, oh shoot, I just hit the microphone, so I'll just repeat that sentence, and maybe it needs to be edited, maybe it doesn't.
Okay.
The way I was thinking about these movies when I was watching them is how they hold up to rewatches.
Yes.
Because every single one of these films, when I first watched them, they were absolutely hilarious.
Uh-huh.
I was laughing the whole time watching all three of these movies the first time. I do think Office Space is by far the most intelligent of them. Not to say that Idiocracy isn't intelligent or Beavis and Butthead isn't intelligent, but at least the jokes, what you're actually laughing at, are probably more intelligent in Office Space than either of the other ones.
Yes. Because
but anyway,
in the other ones, it's just like, wow, these people are stupid.
Yeah.
Or just like, it's like a dumb, like, it's not like you're not laughing at them. It's more of like the stupid things that they do or like the situations that they've put in. There was like 2 times in Beavis and Butthead that I like genuinely laughed. And I'm like, wow, that was actually really funny. Right?
Really?
And,
and this was your first time watching this movie?
Yeah. Like there was a lot of times it was like, oh, that's funny. That's funny that they did that. Right? They're like, oh.
I'm surprised.
Right?
I watched it.
No. Listen to me. There's been times where like I look at it and I'm like, that's funny, or I'll laugh, right, or I'll chuckle. But there was like, I think I've forgotten the other time in which was really funny. But there was one time in which I laughed, and it was like a pure and like genuine laugh that like went on for like 30 seconds, and I had to rewind it to watch it again.
Which part was that? Do you remember?
Yes. That was the part where they're in Washington D.C. and they get on the intercom. And they say the dumb thing, and then all of Congress just starts laughing exactly like them.
Yeah, that's a great scene. That one still made me laugh for sure. Even after already seeing it twice. I remember the first time I watched it, almost every joke totally hit for me. But the other one of my other favorite jokes in this, and this is because I hadn't seen the show before, this is a pretty ongoing gag in the show, is when he got,
the Cornholio
we need
thing?
to find something better than just TV to entertain us. And he goes, huh, you said anus, right?
Uh-huh.
And then the response is, have you guys heard a word I said?
Yeah.
And then he goes, yeah, anus. Oh my god, I died laughing the first time I saw that so hard. I thought it was so funny.
I think.
And then the other, or sorry,
no, you go.
And this part isn't as funny as the other part, even though I'd say the other parts that I laughed at were all the Cornholio moments.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime he was Cornholio.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there like an episode where that starts and this is like they come up with it, or is it just that's a thing that they do?
It's kind of like it's like a catchphrase. They just only listen for the words that are, boobs, butt, things like that, duty. The whole, like, I'm guessing, because I've seen the you said duty, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that originated from Beavis and Butthead, because that's a huge line in any Disney Channel show. And I'm guessing that it originated from Beavis and Butthead, but I'm not certain. Not certain at all.
That would be really funny if it did. That would be so good.
I'm gonna guess it is. But yeah. Anyway, I also love the "we're never gonna score" monologue. The most quoted moments in this movie, from me, because I do quote this movie regularly, but just two moments. I quote the "we're never gonna score" line a lot. I think it's hilarious. But I quote all the time, and I don't know how this one becomes relevant all the time, but it does, is... Why are there no shows? Why are these shows all about water? There should be shows about something cool like fire. Or something like that. I quote that a lot too.
There's like a lot of funny lines or like funny situations that they are put in. Like I feel like not like they're not actually like I never find that like they're doing anything funny. Right? I think it's funny, like, the situations that they're put in is funny. Like, whenever they're put, like, they get switched buses into a bus full of nuns. That's funny. Or they get, like, or they're next to the lady, to the old lady, and she can't understand them, right? And so she thinks that, like, they're, like, good, normal people. That's funny. And then, like, she gives them, like, all of her drugs. That's funny. Them just, like, doing, like, weird things and just, like, saying stupid things, I don't necessarily find funny, but I find the things that they're doing to be funny, I guess.
Well, I think the beauty of Beavis and Butthead is the way they capture the straight man and the stooge so well. And are you familiar with the straight man and stooge concept?
No.
So it's basically... one of the traditional elements of like comedy films, right? And once I've explained this to you, you'll notice it in almost any comedy movie you watch, is there's always a straight man and a stooge, right? What the ridiculous person does is not funny, right? Someone doing something stupid and ridiculous is not funny.
Yes.
It's funny when there's a normal person right next to them going, "What are you doing?"
Yes.
Or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course I explained it really basically, but each, at least...
So, Beavis and Butthead are the stooges, and, like, society is their straight man.
Right. But also, I might even counter that with them, because they are such a character that is in a way really predictable, also sometimes unpredictable, more in the show than in the movie, but they're very, very predictable. They always have these same things they do. They just want to hit on girls, they like metal, they like TV, they like being lazy, and they like destruction, you know? And it's all cool, and so, in a way, they become the straight men, and the world around them becomes the stooge in how they react to Beavis and Butthead. But I don't know. I'd have to workshop that theory some more and come up with some more stuff. But I do think the beauty of it is that Beavis and Butthead they're real people, dude. As much as they're like so cartoony and people think they're so cartoony, I swear I could name somebody that's exactly like Beavis and Butthead. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And
Who?
it is...
Who?
I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a name, but I swear all the time I know some people who are...
Here's what I think it is. Like, I feel like... Okay, so, like, whenever, like dumb, like, teenagers, people in, like, middle school to, like, early high school, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're, like, groups of, like, teen boys, right? They can, like, become Beavis and Butthead for, like, at most, like, maybe, like, an hour, right?
There were moments where chaos became Beavis and Butthead.
100%. Right? Where it's just like, say the stupidest thing and do the stupidest thing to make laughs. Right?
Or even just, not even that. It was more like, man, destruction is cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like Disc Ninja.
For those of you who don't know, Disc Ninja was a short film that I worked on while I was in this high school program. Disc Ninja was basically just us throwing discs at one person with a broom pole, and the person with a broom pole would try and smack the discs and break them. So yes, I have been Beavis and Butthead at one time or another.
I feel like everyone has. But, like, I feel like the important thing is that everyone can be, but it's like, you can't be them for too long. Like, it's just too much. Like, it's like a thing that you become for, like, a certain time when you're in a certain situation, and then you stop and become, like, a normal person again.
No, I would agree with that. But also, the other thing is I was just told that Beavis and Butthead, or I read that Beavis and Butthead is getting a reboot.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it worries me a lot, because Beavis and Butthead, I believe, was most popular in the 90s, possibly early 2000s. And I think that's really essential to their characters, right? That they are very much this product of their generation, of what the grunge scene and the metal scene and all of that liked. They liked destruction. They didn't like school, you know, and they liked being rebellious. And some of the, you know, biggest stoners were just complete idiots. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've met a couple.
And so, anyway, I worry because I believe they're trying to reboot it and make it relevant for, you know, this generation. I certainly worry about that because, you know...
Here's the thing. I think that if you reboot... I feel like there's always two ways to go with a reboot, right? You either stay faithful to the original, in which you stick it in its original time, and you're just like redoing the original but giving it different plots, right? But the same characters and everything. Or you completely shift it to where, like, the only thing that's left over is, like, the way that the characters look, their names, and just sort of, like, the general, like, idea of the show, right? But, like, now they're in, like, now time, so they're, like, now they're in 2020, but, like, what do, like, degenerates do now? Like, they just vape a lot, right? They probably would play Fortnite or some shit. I don't know. Like, they would be like the degenerates of our time versus the degenerates of like the 90s. And I feel like there's two ways to do a reboot, and you have to like make it like faithful completely to the original, or pivot completely and do something new while still having like the ideas of the old.
So
this is also like the other, like there's two ways, and the problem that a lot of people that I feel like a lot of reboots come to is they try to straddle the line too much, and they try to like, and I feel like you either need to go fully one way or fully the other, and you can't go in the middle, because in the middle you're indecisive and you're like neither one nor the other, and that's when people shit on you, right?
So I have a couple things to say about this.
Yes.
I do think there's plenty of source material for the degenerates of today.
Yes.
I worked at summer camp. I've seen what today's kids look like when they're good boys, when they're bad boys, and when they're, somewhere in between. I've had some kids that went into their Beavis and Butthead moment pretty hardcore in my cabin. You know what I mean? And they're all good kids.
Yeah. No, it's exactly what you said. It's a Beavis and Butthead moment.
Right. And the one that I specifically have in mind is really a wonderful camper, and I really enjoyed having him as my camper. But anyway, yeah, he certainly had his moments of being a little turd sometimes, which, God, I was a huge turd in at camp, and I don't mean that as an insult. Typically his turdy moments were some of my favorite moments of having him as a camper.
Oh yeah, they're great.
He was one time there are 2 doors to the program space that we were in, and we were doing this really serious program that was also that was not age appropriate at all for the kids. It was some kind of meditation program, right? Mm-hmm. And anyway, it wasn't done in a great job. We actually had done a meditation program earlier that wasn't going well, but eventually went really well. But because we had some great people doing great things and transitioning the meditation to change. But this meditation was not a great program, and I don't think the leader was really focused on, making it great. I don't even remember what all was going on, but it also was not designed for success. Anyway, there are 2 doors to this program space that we're in. There are more doors than that, but there are 2 doors right next to each other, right?
Yeah, double doors.
And one of the doors opens out and in. You can go in or out through that door. Right? The other door locks on one side, and you can only get out, but you can't get back in through that door. So here's the genius thing that these kids did. They're allowed to go outside and go to the bathroom. Plenty of kids were doing that, but then they'd walk back in really quietly, not to disturb anybody. These kids walk out the door, literally maybe 3 yards around the corner, and then knock on the door that you can't open from the outside. And so we go over, we open the door up, we let them back in. Sure enough, they go right out the other door, come right back around. And these are the same kids that were saying really, really disgusting things that they only had access to because they've had the internet since, they were 5, right? At their fingertips,
Yeah.
They know all of the terrible terminology that they can whip around. And still, the funniest thing they ever did was such clean, innocent humor. You know what I mean? But anyway, what I'm getting at here is these kids have been raised on the internet, They say so many things that blew my mind.
Like what?
That, for example, one of my best campers, like such a good kid, he never did anything bad, right?
Yeah.
He was a great kid, but he had heard that song, Thick N-Words in My Butthole.
Okay.
right? And he didn't know what the N-word was. So he just shouts, "Thick N-words in my butthole." Because he didn't know. He just had no idea. And he shouts that in the cabin at bedtime because they're all, referencing some memes they saw. This white Jewish kid just has the audacity to shout the N-word. He has no idea. And so that's kind of the thing that they could do is you have these kids that have no idea what they're saying at all times because they read all these things out of context on the internet, almost like that kind of AI experiment that Microsoft did where, they put the AI on Twitter for 24 hours and in 24 hours she became a neo-Nazi, right?
Yeah.
Because she didn't have the context. That's what these kids are. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
These kids are that AI. Every single kid who is just radically exposed to the internet with no, holds barred and not enough
context or history
that's being taught to them, right? And that's because they're not asking their parents, hey, what's thick N-words in my butthole?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they were showed to by their degenerate friends or whatever. They were like, yo, check this video out or whatever,
This is a really interesting counterculture that's developing.
And you don't know the half of it because you haven't been surrounded by 11 of them for 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing the stuff that comes out of their mouth and the things that they know that I didn't learn until high school, which, of course, I was a pretty sheltered kid. I was probably medium, but compared to the company I keep, they're all minds blown when they find out that I didn't know something until whatever year I knew it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it blows my mind completely.
Wow. That's crazy.
And so, it's not good or bad, you know what I mean? It's just something that needs to be properly adjusted to that I don't think is currently properly adjusted to. And so Mike Judge could easily capitalize on that situation.
Yeah, I mean, he can
Easily.
if he knows about it, though.
That is the one thing, is that I don't think Mike Judge was a camp counselor. I don't think Mike Judge actually knows all about TikTok.
I think
what I mean?
I think that you should send an email to Mike Judge and let him know.
Yeah, and so that's one of the problems. And I haven't seen Space Force, so forgive me
Did he do
if
Space
I'm
Force?
Incorrect. I haven't seen Space Force.
Did he do it, though? Is that his?
No, that's Greg Daniels, who did The Office.
Oh, okay.
And Greg Daniels is great. He also did Parks and Rec, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the problem that I believe they faced, or at least one of the many problems they faced, possibly, with, Space Force, is that one of the characters is supposedly really, really hip and in and does TikTok and Instagrams.
Yeah,
and
except
he knows
we can point that out and say that and tell that he's not instantly.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, is when someone, and this is something I'm actually learning about in one of my classes, but through a different lens, is that when someone who, or even, it's kind of like gonzo journalism, right?
Yeah.
Gonzo journalism is that concept that if you're going to write about it and actually be accurate, you have to have lived it, right?
Yes.
So Hunter S. Thompson, when he wanted to write about the Hells Angels, he didn't just look at what they did from the outside. He was a Hells Angel for a little bit, and he just wrote about what it was like to be a Hells Angel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's the problem that could easily be faced when they reboot Beavis and Butthead, is if Mike Judge isn't on TikTok, he shouldn't be making jokes about TikTok. You know?
Yeah. This is like a very, very high level conversation for getting it out of Beavis and Butthead.
I think Beavis and Butthead is highly intelligent because it's all about, I think a lot of it is about education, but it's also about, you know, the youth of the times and what, I mean, it could work in the 60s too. You know what I mean? It's all about how the culture is reflected on kids who don't understand the culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what Beavis and Butthead really is all about. Is these kids don't know about how to pick up chicks, obviously. But everything they hear is, yo, I was picking up chicks, you know? They watch TV about all these good-looking guys, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when they try it, it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're losers.
Yeah. Or they're just because they're just like, and then they just assume that it works.
They don't understand.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah. So, I think Beavis and Butthead is genius and was super ahead of its time, and luckily was recognized as being ahead of its time eventually. You know what I mean? Because, you know, when it first came out, to the best of my knowledge, the response was, God, this is so dumb. It's just two kids going, ha, 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 and saying boobs and butt all the time. This is so awful. Uh-huh. You know what I mean? But it's genius. I find it to be really insightful and just really well structured and well crafted. But I'll pivot here. The problem with Beavis and Butthead, specifically Beavis and Butthead Do America, only because I haven't done enough of this with the show, is that each time you rewatch it does not get better. It really does not get better. And the ones, even the episodes that I have rewatched that I thought I was dying laughing the whole time I watched the episode, right? When you rewatch it, it really isn't as funny because those jokes and those beats are really, really ironed in, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they're, once you've seen it, you can easily predict it the second time. Whereas, you know, like something like The Big Lebowski, there are multiple layers, and still, for some reason, the humor works every time.
Yeah.
You know? And so that was kind of my problem with Beavis and Butthead and Idiocracy, is that I don't think they hold up to multiple viewings, whereas I don't know if I'll ever get sick of Office Space.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah. What are so before we pivot on, what are like some things that you think are just like really good about this movie? Or like
Beavis
just moments.
and Butthead?
Yeah, about like just general moments of like this part of the movie is good. Because I certainly have a list of like, this is funny, this is funny, this is funny, or all of that.
I think it's very efficient overall. It knows what it wants to do, and it does it perfectly. You know, it does that whole kind of problems of circumstance, ridiculous characters that many other comedies have done, but it does it really well. Really, really well.
Gotcha.
And it's basically an adult's version of, say, Mr. Magoo or whatever, mm-hmm. where just he happens to be walking and he just walks at the perfect time where he gets so close to danger and then doesn't, die.
Yeah.
Or whatever, know. And so I just think it does that really well, and the characters, you love Beavis and Butthead. Everybody loves them. Yeah,
because they're stupid. How could you not laugh at them?
They're so lovable, too.
Yeah. I have a question. Where in Texas are they?
What do you mean?
Whenever they start off, right? Like, okay, the camper that they, like, jerk off in, it has a Texas license plate.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell you where Beavis and Butthead's hometown is.
Oh, I mean, like, the hometown is, like, it has a name. I was just wondering of, like, where in Texas that would be. I also have to look that up on my own. But they're from Texas, which I thought was interesting. I think it's funny that they meet their parents or their dad, and that or their fathers, and they're the exact same.
That was a great moment, and it's kind of that, you know, sometimes when like the movie gives things to the like viewers that have been viewing this for a while, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you never know. I don't think you ever meet Beavis and Butthead's parents in the show.
Yeah.
And so it is nice that, you know, the movie's able to break a couple of the rules that are in the show or whatever, right? To just give you a little bit of like, yeah, here we're expanding on the universe because it's a movie. Check it out.
I just think it's funny that they're like...
I thought that one was a great one of what I'm talking about. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's funny. Okay, Beavis is the blonde one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's funny that Beavis eats a cactus and then goes on like that crazy acid trip. That's funny.
I almost turned one of the clips from that sequence in as my clip that I was going to analyze for my color theory class. But I decided not to. Instead, I actually went with a scene where you see Willem Dafoe's bare butt
nice
in Antichrist. And so, yeah. Either way, it was pretty ridiculous. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a stupid funny movie. I feel like if it was any longer, it would like just immediate. Yeah, no, it's just I think it. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of running jokes throughout the movie that I just think are funny, and I feel like towards the end of the movie, once they get into Washington, they just like now that they're in Washington, they can like poke fun at the government, and so then they do that, and that's funny.
It's kind of like Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay, but the political satire is pretty interlaced throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's move on, because
okay.
we've certainly talked enough about Beavis and Butthead.
Yes, we
and
have.
All the other tangents I went on.
What? Which one next?
What do you want to talk about next?
Idiocracy?
Yeah, that seems like the right way to go.
Okay.
Because I think Idiocracy and Beavis and Butthead are a lot closer
than Office Space.
Office Space, and also Idiocracy kind of bridges that gap.
Yeah.
Because Idiocracy does have more of that biting social criticism, whereas, at least in the film, I don't think it has as much of the social criticism that it does sometimes have in the show. I think Idiocracy is great. I really enjoyed it a lot, but definitely the second view, the third viewing, really, it still held up in the second viewing because I had one of my friends over, and I watched it almost immediately again when I watched it the second time. You know, it was like right after I watched it the first time. And I had my friend over, and he was like, "This is so dumb. These guys are so dumb." And it just made it better. It was the
point of the movie.
I was like, you don't get it, and I love it.
You know what I noticed?
What?
So, you know how in the beginning of the movie, they have, like, the two smart people, and they like to show how, like, people don't reproduce?
Yeah.
The father, or, like, the husband, he's the crazy person in Under the Sea, or Under the Silver Lake. Like, the person who gets killed by the owl.
Oh, same
actor.
Wow, that's cool. No, I think it's really beautiful the way that scene functions.
Yeah,
and it really sets it up well. The theory behind the film.
Yeah. Now, I mean, like to like understand the film, you have to understand the premise. And then it, like, the narration sets up the premise perfectly. I like, there's narration throughout the movie, and then maybe like in the later parts of the movie, it's sort of like not necessarily needed. I think, but it works really well to set up the basic premise.
Yeah. I mean, I think Idiocracy really speaks for itself, and there's not as much to say about Idiocracy as there is both of the other two films. But yeah, I really just think it's a really cool sci-fi film, for what it is. As if we take it just as a sci-fi film, it's really cool to see a very different interpretation of the future than any other sci-fi film I've seen.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that my dad originally showed me this movie, I believe the day after Trump got elected. And
that sounds like your family.
It sounds like my dad specifically. The rest of my family isn't as crazy as he is. And
I didn't know that.
No, he's definitely the more radical. Not like radical in like a crazy radical way. More of just like you understand what I'm saying.
More of just he's a New Yorker.
Yes. So recently, I think I heard him say, I don't know why. Oh, I brought up that we were talking about that we were watching Idiocracy for the podcast. And he's like, oh, that movie. And he was like, he referred to the movie as a documentary. Like my mom says, like, yeah, it's kind of crazy how like kind of prophetic it was. And then my dad was like, it's a documentary.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, both this movie and Office Space gave me the same sort of like feelings, because like I've worked a minimum wage job for 2 years now, and I've dealt with so many people like this, or just people who are just don't understand, or just like can't, like they do things because someone told them to do them that way, and not necessarily are thinking of what would be more effective, or what would be like the best way to do something, or why they're even doing that in the first place. They're just doing it because someone told them to. And it's really infuriating of when any problem just comes up and they're like, well, this isn't in any of the things that someone would tell me that I would have to do, right? It's working a minimum wage job for as long, well, like for 2 years, you'll run into people like this who just like can't think. And they're just like, it's just not great. Luke Wilson, I think looks better than Owen Wilson.
Luke Wilson's better than Owen Wilson, you think?
Yes, because Owen Wilson just looks weird. Luke Wilson doesn't.
I love Owen Wilson.
Okay, but his nose is weird. Luke Wilson's nose isn't.
You have a very specific mind about actors if you're judging them just based on their noses.
Well, because his nose is weird.
And
you brothers, don't like and one has one nose and the other one has another. They're completely different noses.
Okay, dude.
What are you gonna say?
No, I think Idiocracy is a really cool criticism, but I do love the constant furthering of the world building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like each new element it introduces is just like, oh, that's awesome. You know?
Or like, of course it would be like this.
Yeah.
Or like, so wow. Or it just like builds on how stupid these people are.
I love that he went to law school at Costco and he was lucky to get in there. I don't know if you caught that line, but he was like, yeah, I was lucky enough. And then I love that President Gamacho is a wrestler and a porn star, and he shoots guns in the, in the House chamber,
or the Congress chamber, whatever it is.
Yeah. No, so yeah, I love all that. I think one of the shining moments of this film is the courtroom scene. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Just the way they all talk, and it's real enjoyable. I'm trying to think what are some other moments from this film that I really enjoy. Frito's character is great.
Yeah. I just really like how everyone is fat and stupid. I just think it's great that, like, literally everyone in this show is like, movie is like really, really dumb and like 50 to 100 pounds overweight or more.
And I really like the shoot, I may have just forgotten what it was. Oh, the guy who's like, oh, I'm gonna wait so good or whatever, as he's, trying to buy from Rita. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, the Brondo CEO, right? They have like a teleconference with him or whatever.
Yeah.
That dude's the Sandman.
No, I knew that.
Okay.
He's in a lot. But yeah, I just think Idiocracy is really fun and really cool, and I think overall what I might like most about it is just that it's a totally different sci-fi movie that's also the exact same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every sci-fi movie follows that idea of either we're forwards in time or someone goes forwards in time, and there's one big problem with the world that's going on when you're forwards in time, Mm-hmm. So in the case of like iRobot, it's AI is too powerful. Same with Terminator, and so it's all these same in that way, and then they fix the problem. But no one ever picks like the IQ of the entire population is too small.
Yeah,
as the problem.
Yeah, and it's funny because before seeing this movie, this was something that I thought about before. That I'm like, the logic loop of dumb people have more kids than smart people, therefore there will be more dumb people than smart people, has been a logic loop that has gone around in my head and is like sort of been in the back of my head since even before I watched this movie, which I think is very funny.
And the other thing is that idea that they bring up in the beginning of, with no natural predators, there's no...
Yeah. That
there's no
specifically
survival
is what I'm talking
of the
about.
fittest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
like, that's like... I've thought about this in like the whole regard of like, well, why are there a ton of people with peanut allergies now? Like, why? How did that happen? Right? Or like things like that. Or like, why are people gluten intolerant? Like, since when did that become a problem? It's just like things like that. Of like, now that... Yeah, I mean, it's like... Basically, what is just said in the movie. Yeah.
I'd be so worried if I developed lactose intolerancy.
Well, I mean, just don't... Okay, so I haven't really eaten dairy in forever. And so...
You work at Amy's.
Okay, yeah, but I don't eat ice cream all the time. And then so like 2 months ago, I had a shake from Amy's. And oh God, I have not shit myself so much. It was... I cannot eat that much dairy in a day anymore. I just can't.
So I just need to keep doing exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, just drink like a glass of milk a day or something, and you'll keep it.
I do a lot more than that. I just eat a ton of cheese. That's really what would be a problem.
Cheese is so good.
I couldn't miss out on cheese and ice cream just based on what like my two favorite food items are.
Cheese and ice cream?
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't blame you. They're also my favorite. Like ice cream, I've been spoiled with Amy's, and then cheese is just great.
Yeah. So let's move on to Office Space.
Yes.
I would nominate the Office Space opening scene as the greatest opening scene of all time.
It is very accurate.
I was thinking about it for a while. There's some other opening scenes that I like a lot. I'm looking at some. What's funny is that 8.5's opening scene is also a Traffic opening scene, and it's also revered as one of the greatest opening scenes of all time. Another opening scene that I absolutely love is Antichrist's opening sequence, and for a completely different reason. But why I love this sequence is that it takes something so monotonous and finds a way to make it a perfect way to introduce all the main characters of the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shows you that, I forget the main character's name. Anyway, he is super frustrated the whole time. I think John Livingston is his real name. So it shows that John Livingston is just super frustrated with his entire surroundings. Michael Bolton thinks he's this gangster, but he is, just a skinny white guy.
Yeah.
And it shows it so
it's so good.
That quick locking the doors when he sees a black guy outside is... I don't know if it'll stay okay in 5 more years, but it's perfectly accurate. And then I think it's Sajid or something like that. Samir, my bad. Samir is just yelling and screaming, and then Milton is being Milton. And then, of course, Bob Lumbergh comes in driving his Porsche, thinking he's all that.
Yeah, and then and then he pauses to look at his car as he walks away.
And it kind of perfectly sets up this kind of idea of the haves and the have-nots that's kind of carried out throughout the whole film, but really more in that opening scene. And so, yeah, I really like all these characters, and I like that each character, it's all playing on the repetitiveness that all these characters are going through, and the repetitiveness of just a 9-to-5 day job,
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody's got a case of the Mondays, 5 different guys come up and ask him, about the TPS reports. Michael Bolton always has to say, no, I have no relation to Michael Bolton.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's it's no one can
produce it, and no one can pronounce Samir's last name. You know? All these jokes are so great and so reoccurring.
Yeah, and I feel like it gets better the longer that they go on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the whole concept of this movie of a frustrated worker who just stops caring is a really beautiful concept and way to go about this film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think it's funnier that once he stops caring, he gets a promotion.
Yeah. Yeah, so ridiculous. And then I also just love his relationship with his neighbor. That's something that is too great.
He just knocks on the wall and he's like, why don't you just come over?
And then the elements of flair, man.
Of who?
Perfect. Of flair. The elements of flair. You have to have 15 elements of flair.
Oh. Yeah, I thought you were talking about a character named Claire.
No. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
It really... that one also... I've never
Amy's
worked
is very,
a job
very
like that.
hard. Is of just being you need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to go over the top and have a personality. Literally just everything that person says And just like every like interaction with the customer needs to be like one of their best because we are like a quirky ice cream place. Our ice cream is expensive, so why would they come here? Because we have a personality and we're quirky and we do cool things. Like literally all of that is what is said in the movie.
And that's the other thing is Amy's doesn't need to have a personality. Their ice cream is the best ice cream I've ever had.
Yeah, it's the best in Austin. That's why people come.
And also, I sometimes don't want to come because of the employees every now and then. It's not always, but there are certainly specific employees at Amy's that I run into every now and then.
Or you like drive by and you're like, I don't want to interact with you. I'll just go to Baskin Robbins.
Yeah, that's why I started only going to your Amy's, because whoever I run into, I know, and they drop the act when I come in.
Yep.
And then I get to be a jerk to them. And it's really funny, and also I get free ice cream a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And it's just so worth the extra drive to not have to risk running into the, my least favorite person in school because they think they're cool and they're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're working at a job where it only emphasizes that.
Yeah.
It's so terrible running into them and they're like, oh, well, how malty would you like that? Because I go malty with the maltiness. And they do finger guns and spin around and clap their hands.
I never do that. I'm just like, I'm just me, but I just smile and I have a voice. I just have a voice that I do.
Yeah.
And I'm just nice to people. I don't do any of that. Sometimes if like, there's like a couple customers that like come in a lot and they'll like start to like make jokes and develop like a joke rapport. But like, I don't. And, like, the best thing is whenever I go to other Amy's and I'm like, hey, I work at South Lamar. And, like, instantly they go from, like the Amy's, like, customer-facing thing to just, like, oh, what do you want? It's so good. Or, like, whenever, like, my dad comes in and I just, like, and I'll just, like, talk to my dad for, like, 5 or 10 minutes about whatever. And it's just, like, completely the opposite of me at Amy's. Right, it's just completely 180s of just like, oh hey, what's up?
There was one guy who worked at Amy's who would rap as he did Crushins.
Oh
no! It was great. It was awesome. He would rap whenever he did Crushins, and I at the time, I was like in 3rd grade or so it didn't matter whether or not he was good at rapping. It was just awesome. That he was rapping, and we went back and we always got something with Crushins, so we'd do it.
Yeah. I mean, like, the tricks are cool. I feel like the tricks are cool regardless of what age you are, though.
Oh, yeah. Didn't I always come in and demand you do a trick for me?
Yeah.
There's something about seeing a person do a backflip that's never going to wear off, and it's the same with someone throwing a scoop of ice cream over their shoulder and catching it in front of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to do. I'll always do it. I'll always be able to do it. The funny thing is, like, from working that job, the amount of, like, ice cream facts and, like, things about Amy's that have, like, been drilled into my head, or, like, how to make a shake. Like, I'll never forget how to, like, do it perfectly. And, like, since I've worked there for so long of, like, I've developed, like, an idea of, like, well, if you do this, it's like this. And, it, like, of, like, actually, like, how to make, like a shake that's, like, better than other ones. Like, it's a whole thing.
Really? You're going to have to teach me how to make a better shake. Because I just know ice cream, milk, and malt powder if you're feeling it.
There's, like, levels of mix, and then, like, if you use whole milk, it's a lot better than 2%.
We use skim at the house.
That's disgusting. And then the other thing is, like, put as little milk as you can. If you want it to be, like, a super thick shake, put as little milk as you can.
Yeah, Amy's does always have real thick shakes.
I mean, I can make them thin. That's not hard. Making them thick is the hard part.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. So, yeah, back to Office Space. I think I can't imagine this movie is going to stop being relatable
Oh no.
for many years.
This will be relatable till like the end of time.
It's
like based off of the fundamental human experience of like the 21st century. Like this will never go away.
And I'm sure like people working in factories and things like that also have this same experience, and even then it's covered by the manual labor working neighbor, you know?
Yeah.
In my line of work, I reckon you'd get punched for saying something like that. You know?
Yeah.
I did really like that line a lot.
There's like a lot of like just like funny things of like the characters and like the things that like they just get asked to do just because like everybody's dealt with those before. Everybody understands, right? And like sort of the situation that the main character is put in where like he goes into his like review and he just immediately turns it on the people and is like, I think it's, and like he immediately gets like supported by those people and it's like, I don't think you're challenging him enough. I think that he should get stock options and a promotion, right?
Yeah.
That never happens. But everybody wants that to happen because everybody feels like their job is bullshit. That's just how everybody feels.
And then I like, I think Bill Lumbergh's character is just so perfect.
Yeah.
He's really fantastic. And originally, so this was, Office Space was based on a small animation, possibly a series, but pretty similar looking to, you know, the original Beavis and Butthead's, probably much worse as well. And it was just called Milton. And it was just Bill Lumbergh and Milton. You know, and that was the whole show.
Interesting.
I don't know if it really ever went anywhere, but that's what got him Office Space was, I think it may have even just been like a 2-minute, you know, animation video of Bill Lumbergh and Milton. And so those two characters are just so great and so antithesis of each other that they're really fantastic.
Yeah, because like I feel like Milton and like the other person who gets hit by a car, they don't need to be in that story. Neither does like none of like his office workers need
Milton
to be in the story.
needs to be in.
No,
I disagree.
You could have pulled some other thing of how how it could have burned down or like something could have gotten lost at the end, but like it's like they're in there because they're important to like the office life, right? And they're in, or like how working a job like a minimum wage or not necessarily, well, he's not necessarily getting minimum wage, but like how working like a low paying job like this works and just sort of like the feeling that you get from it. Because every job has those people. Every job or like in like your school, right, has these characters.
Yeah. I think there are also just some really great gags throughout the whole film.
Oh, yeah. Or like how Milton is just at the end of every sentence like, this is the last straw. I'm going to burn the place down.
No. Not
the entire
like
movie.
Not like running gags, but just like one-time gags.
Okay.
So specifically the one that I think of, which totally still hit the fifth time, you know, was, what would you do if you had $1 million? That's easy. 2 chicks at the same time. You know, it's hilarious and it works great. I also love the gag where he gets the call from his girlfriend right at the time, who just starts screaming at him, you know, like, why aren't you going to work? Why are you going to work? And don't say it's because of the hypnotism, because I know that's bullshit, or whatever she says when she's the one who dragged him to the hypnotist and was saying, you know, that he needs to do it and it's going to really work or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? So, I thought
And then like
that
she's
was...
like screaming, and he like the message starts, and he like presses next on the recording machine, and he just like keeps pressing next, and he just like does not care.
Yeah.
And then like at the very end, she's like, "And I cheat," and then he just like presses next again.
Yeah. What else is there to say about? There's some really great sequences as well. I love the sequence where they're passing around the file, or the floppy disk, right, to put it onto the computer, which I also believe is one of the best interpretations of hacking that's ever been on screen.
Yeah, because you literally just like drag and drop. I think it's funny that the file name is hacked or is virus.exe or something like that.
Yeah. It's great to see something that isn't I'm in, or whatever. Which at the same time, because I've seen so much of that, I still think that's how hacking works. But I know in some ways it isn't. So anyway, and then the way that they overcomplicate it so much and make it look so badass is great. And then the breaking the printer is fantastic.
Yeah.
That sequence is great. I think
it has been done many times over by Chaos.
Yeah. I think Nicholas Aragon did it for one of the Chaos episodes.
Yeah, he did it with the camera.
Yeah, Ashley Mahaffey and maybe Seth Ellington?
Probably.
No. Seth. What's Seth's last name? I forgot. Whatever. I feel so bad now that I forgot Seth's last name.
I would have not been able to tell you Ashley's name, so.
All right. Well. Cool. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to bring up about Office Space?
I think his neighbor is okay. So like the Western dude in The Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
I feel like they definitely could be the same character. Like if that dude grew up and like aged 40 years, but like had like the same thought process, but just like became more like, I don't know, presentable about it, which like I guess happens when you get older, is you're not like as like brazen about things. They could be the same character, I feel.
All right. Oh, another fun fact. I think Gil actually told me this. So the red swing line stapler, right?
Yeah.
They never made a red swing line stapler ever.
Really?
Before the movie came out, right? And they wanted that stapler to pop, so it really did kind of feel special in the film. So they painted it red, right? And so Swingline didn't make a red stapler. And after the movie came out, there was so much demand for a red Swingline stapler that they just had to start making red Swingline staplers.
That's funny.
So yeah. All right, we've got a pretty solidly lengthed episode.
I feel like they've been getting shorter.
Guess what we did? We did it again.
What?
What are we gonna watch next week?
Oh God. We did do it again, didn't we? Okay, so next, we just figured this out. Next week is gonna be Rope, Birdman, and 1917.
Yep. All right.
So that'll be next week.
That'll be all.